My wife has a small podcasting studio, and today we're going to use the Zhiyun Molus X100 and the C60 to set up lighting for her when she's doing her podcasts. Just these two lights, and we're going to take it looking from something like this, and using these two lights, we're going to make it look something like this. Full disclosure, Zhiyun did send all this stuff to me, but they get no input into this video and they don't get to see it before it's launched. One thing a lot of people don't realize is one of the best investments you can make other than good lenses and cameras is lighting. Lighting makes a massive difference on how good or how bad your videos look. And so having some good small lights, especially for a small space like this, makes a huge difference on how the space is going to look on camera. In fact, I would wager to bet that it looks and makes a bigger difference than even the camera or the lens does itself. So if you're looking to invest a small amount of money and make a huge impact in how your videos look, then lighting is where you definitely want to invest your money. The first thing that makes these lights ideal for something like this is that they're both bicolor. So you can either match the room light that you have or the ambient light if you have light coming in from outside. That makes these lights really versatile. The other thing that makes these lights great is they are tiny, so you can fit them into a relatively small space. This is essentially a bedroom that we turned into my wife's office and studio, and these two lights will fit perfectly because they take up almost no space at all. So when setting up any lighting, the first thing you want to do is remove any shadows off the face, and we're going to do this using a key light. Now, a key light is something that's in front of your subject, or in this case, you, and you generally want it off to be about 45 degrees off to one side and about 45 degrees up from the face. That's a general rule. You can play with that depending on the type of look you're going for. If you don't want quite so much shadow on one side of the face, then you can move it around a little more in front. And if you want a little more shadow to be a little more dramatic, you can move it around a little further to one side. But setting up the key light is important because you want to make sure it illuminates the eyes and the face really nicely and really evenly. And for this, we're going to use the Molus X100 and the little softbox that they include with this. Now, the softbox isn't huge, but being that we're in such a small space, I think it's actually going to work out pretty well and give us some pretty soft light. Now, of course, we want to get this up high enough that we're going to get a decent downward angle. So we're going to use this tripod and selfie stick from Zhiyun. And we're going to set it up to where it's at least above the eye line and shining somewhat down on the face. We want to make sure that we're not getting any shadows under the brow because we want to make sure the eyes stay nicely illuminated, but we're going to get it up just high enough. Now, another option you have is something like this very cheap stand from Amazon that I got that just clamps on the side of the desk, which is probably what I'd end up going with just because you don't want the light falling off the desk if somebody bumps it. But if all you have is a selfie stick and tripod from Zhiyun, it will work. So here you can see it's already looking much better. The face is much more evenly illuminated. It looks much nicer and cleaner and brighter, and it'll work a lot better overall for what we're going for. The next thing we want to do is make our subject pop out from the background. And the way we do that is using what's called a kicker or a hair light. And that's a fairly harsh light source that comes from behind, generally from above and behind, usually about an opposite angle from wherever the key light is, but that's not a hard and fast rule. You can go from straight up behind, straight down, anything like that. Just what you're looking for is to give your subject a little rim, an edge of light that makes them stand out from the wall or whatever is behind them. And that's going to give some separation from your subject and whatever's in the background. This is especially important if you're using something like a computer or an iPhone or any sort of phone that doesn't have a lot of depth to the actual lenses that you have. Now, if you're using a really high-end camera, this will be a lot easier to do, but this will even make it look good on something cheaper or something more basic like a phone. Now, this is going to be a little bit harder because I don't have anything to attach directly to the wall. So again, we're going to use this small tripod and selfie stick from Zhiyun. We're going to put it on this nightstand that we've turned into kind of a little table, and we're going to get it up as high as we can and then shine it directly at the back of our subject's head because that's the most important thing that we want to make sure has a nice little edge light to it. So from here, it's just a matter of playing with the levels to make sure you get what you need. And that's going to largely depend on the kind of camera you're using, whether you're using a phone, a laptop, or a really good high-end camera. It's going to make a big difference on how much light you need. But pretty much the rule of thumb is put yourself down in that and then start playing with the different levels and intensities to make sure you get the lighting that you want. Now, if you're going to have the room light on, you want to make sure and match the color temperature up. This light happens to be about 4100 Kelvin. So you want to match the light temperature in these two lights to that room light. Or you can leave your key light at 5600 and then match up your hair light or your other light to that room temperature light to give it a little bit of a different feel. Generally though, if you're using phones or laptops, something like that, you want to just match up your room light temperature and use these lights so that they all match, all in the same color temperature range. It makes it a lot easier for your phone or your computer to figure out what the right white balance is supposed to be. One thing that's nice about the Molus X100 is that you can use it with a battery if you needed to. So if you didn't have a place to plug it in, then you can use this. And because it is so powerful, you don't need that much light output to actually get a pretty good amount of illumination. And that means the battery is going to last quite a while. In my testing, the battery at full strength ran for about 20, maybe 30 minutes, but 20 is probably more on the safe side. But again, that's 100 watts output from a very small and very compact package. And while both of these lights are fan cooled, neither one of them have actually had the fans kick on. Even when I've been running them at 100% for a little while, I didn't really hear the fans kick on. So they are extremely quiet, and the cooling, the amount of cooling that these lights have is apparently more than enough so that the fans rarely have to even really spin up at all. And when they do, it's not that fast, and they're very quiet fans anyways. So this shouldn't interfere with my wife being able to sit down and talk to people over Zoom or conduct her podcast if she's got somebody in the studio with her. Now you're going to want to watch this video right here next to see more ways you can improve your lighting. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below or join my live stream, which happens Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you again soon in the next video. Cheers.